And so, ladies and gentlemen, since Nick Shirley cracked open Pandora's box on the fraud in Minnesota, it has only gotten worse for Democrats. And now with J.D. Vance being tasked by the president to lead the crackdown on fraud, waste, and abuse as the fraud czar, the pressure is only increasing for Democrats. You got Gavin Newsom, who wants to be president, but can't really even take care of his own state, as California is now being exposed as ground zero when it comes to hospice fraud. And so we got to break it all down. As always, if you enjoy the content, smash that thumbs up. That's the best way to let me know you enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel to stay locked in for future videos. And make sure you hit all for your notifications. That way you never miss anytime I drop a video. Let's get right into it.
Federal authorities just announced the arrest of multiple people in Southern California in connection to a massive healthcare fraud takedown targeting sham hospice facilities. The defendants allegedly cheating Medicare out of millions of dollars. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joins us. This operation was carried out by federal agents in coordination with Vice President J.D. Vance's Fraud Task Force. Break down the details.
So called Operation Never Say Die. Those arrested, which include 3 nurses, a psychologist, and a chiropractor, are accused of operating a massive hospice fraud ring in the Los Angeles area, some of whom were billing Medicare for end-of-life services for patients who weren't terminally ill. On Thursday, federal officials announcing multiple arrests in connection to Operation Never Say Die, targeting a massive hospice and healthcare fraud ring in Southern California. Vice President J.D. Vance writing on X, his fraud task force is taking action, arresting fraudsters who stole over $50 million from Americans.
We need to get serious, and we don't see that happening in California. The ecosystem is rotten. We've uncovered lots of other derivatives that happen when you don't take care of this fraud in the way it needs to be done.
2 of the people arrested, Gladwin and Amy Lou Gill, the couple accused of creating a hospice in their daughter's name, allegedly swindling over $7 million from taxpayers.
It's all total fraudulent hospice services. They were signing up people who are not terminally ill. They were forging the documents, the medical records.
Citing multiple HHS officials, investigative journalist Christopher Rufo with City Journal reporting, California's fraud rate is about 25% or $50 billion of the state's total Medicaid budget, which, according to the National Association of State Budget Officers, is right around $200 billion. The estimate, more than 29 states spend in a year.
Every criminal group saw that Gavin Newsom was opening the floodgates of state spending. They could take whatever they wanted, and he's losing now an estimated up to $50 billion a year to fraud.
The bust also coming shortly after independent journalist James O'Keefe announced the Justice Department is conducting witness testimonies with his team who recorded alleged election fraud along LA's Skid Row.
It appears, based upon this development, we may finally see some arrests and accountability in this clear-cut case.
Former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani tells the National News Desk he believes Thursday's arrests could be a sign of what's to come.
You have individuals high up in the Department of Justice, including our U.S. Attorney, or First Assistant U.S. Attorney now, Bill Asaley here in L.A., saying that this is going to be a big priority for the DOJ. I expect to see more charges and indictments soon.
Rahmani adding, whenever the law and politics intersect in a certain way, you can expect action.
You're going to get a lot of federal government resources in terms of agents and prosecutors investigating these types of cases.
Now, in response to the enforcement, California Governor Gavin Newsom's office writing, glad the federal government is finally stepping up to do their part. The state has been taking action for years, including suspending over 280 licenses and banning new ones since 2022.
So what started out with Nick Shirley deciding to investigate and basically do the job that the mainstream media could easily do. They could easily have a team focused on investigative journalism that uncovers these things and that actually benefit the public. It would scare off more criminals because they know they would get caught. People are watching them, and it would hold politicians more accountable. But they choose not to until now because it's trending. And the people committing these crimes aren't criminal masterminds, to say the least. But they don't have to be when it's this easy to pull off. The moment they start getting heat, they shut everything down. Like in this clip where Nick Shirley went out to a hospice location, and then when he decided just to come back, a few days later, the sign was gone. Everything was shut down. They closed up shop. Check it out.
We know that hospice is a very lucrative business, so I joined a business partner right here. His name's Darren, and we're here outside the Hospice Consultants, and we would like to start our own hospice today. We're just two young men who want to become millionaires here inside the United States, and it seems like the only way to do it nowadays is by committing fraud. So we're gonna go in and see if we can start our own hospice. Are you guys the Hospice Consultants?
Yes.
Oh, can we talk to you guys?
About?
I want to open my hospice.
You want to open a hospice?
Yeah.
Okay, what was your name?
My name's Nick, but I want to open up a hospice.
I understand, but we don't take care of that.
Can I get some information?
Do you want a number?
Yeah, or give me a flyer or something. And this is the Hospice Consultant.
Yes. Not only hospice.
All right, so they say they're open right now. They won't let us into the lobby. This is no way to conduct business. We are two entrepreneurs trying to open up our own hospice.
Soaked to the bone right now.
We were denied service by the potential fraudsters, and as we were leaving, one of the fraudsters started to leave from the back in a $200,000 Maybach.
And we have a Mercedes-Benz driving up. Where can we open a hospice at? We'd like to open up a hospice. Get a Maybach just like you. So is this how I can get a Maybach by opening up my own hospice?
And so that happened, ladies and gentlemen. And then check out the update where he says LA hospice fraudsters shut down their fraudulent business and flee the building. This business was operating as a home health care and hospice consultant, teaching others how to start a fraudulent hospice business. Why run if you have nothing to hide? Fraud. And so there you have it. The building shut down. They are out of there compared to what it was just a day or so ago. Yeah, and so let's jump into the next segment and break this down, ladies and gentlemen, because these people had a full operation when they do this. They got full operation. They got marketing. They're giving kickbacks to the people who they're finding that they could use their names and information sometimes. And so you got this situation going on where you got two hospices in Los Angeles stole $16 million from taxpayers. They would bill $30K for every patient in Medicare. Over 8 months, 97% of patients were still alive, but they billed them millions in fraudulent services during the short time period. 97% of the patients who go into their hospice for these locations, they live. They don't even die. And here's the kicker. Nationally, 80% of adults admitted or people admitted to hospice die. And usually within the first weeks, almost nobody died. After 8 months, 97% left alive. And so let's check out the full report. Take a listen.
You inside a major fraud bust totaling tens of millions of dollars. It happened this morning in Los Angeles. Senior national correspondent William LaJeunesse was there when it all went down.
Early morning, Southern California. FBI SWAT making simultaneous arrests of hospice owners accused of bilking millions from federal taxpayers. Do you have anything to say about those charges?
I don't know anything.
Have you got anything to say about these accusations?
We've been investigating for 4 years.
That husband and wife, he a doctor, she a nurse, do business as St. Francis Palliative Care out of this high-rise office. Accused in a criminal complaint of enrolling hundreds of patients who do not qualify for hospice, but billing the federal government as if they did. They're accused of submitting almost 1,000 claims based on a fake diagnosis, costing taxpayers about $30,000 per patient.
You might live in a nice neighborhood now with a beautiful house and great cars and wonderful vacations, but the clock's ticking.
Also arrested the owner of Topanga Hospice. According to that complaint, Lolita Menard paid people $300 a month to stay enrolled, while she pocketed $6,000 a month for each. Nationally, 80% of patients who enter hospice die there, most within the first 3 weeks. But Medicare data for these providers show 97% were discharged alive.
Normally for a hospice, the beneficiary is someone who's terminally ill, and you expect them to not survive very long. But what we see in these hospices is they never die.
All told, the feds say those arrested were responsible for stealing more than $50 million.
No one should be allowed to rip off the United States of America.
This is the first takedown by the new White House Anti-Fraud Task Force. No surprise, it happened here in California, where the state doled out some 2,000 hospice licenses to what auditors say went to unqualified operators with little or no oversight.
Little to no oversight means Gavin Newsom and Democrat leadership in the state of California just chose to ignore it. Because when you have red flags like 97% of patients leaving hospice alive, that should tell you something, right? That's not normal. That's not what hospice is for. And if it were legit, you would want to know what kind of groundbreaking care are they providing over there, because that's not the norm when it comes to the survival rates. And so this all happened under Gavin Newsom's watch, ladies and gentlemen. And so let's jump into the next clip where it's being uncovered that $280 billion in fraud found under Gavin Newsom in California. Every group possible has been looting the state of California and U.S. taxpayers. And so let's take a listen.
Discovered was really shocking. Not only are these top line numbers somewhere between $180 billion and $280 billion in fraud under Gavin Newsom in California, but when you dig into it and you read all of the court documents, the indictments, the other investigations, we found out that virtually every criminal group on planet Earth has been looting the state of California. Romanian international fraud rings. You had rap groups in Memphis, Tennessee. You had neo-Nazi prison gangs. You had people actually in California death row applying for fraudulent unemployment benefits. And what we found is that essentially every criminal group saw that Gavin Newsom was opening the floodgates of state spending. They could take whatever they wanted. And he's losing now an estimated up to $50 billion a year to fraud with no end in sight.
This is who Democrats are propping up as the next leader of the party, Gavin Newsom. But I don't know how anyone, if they're actually aware of how he has governed the state of California, how they could honestly support him. If you're a Democrat, how could you honestly support this guy? And this is really all the ammunition Republicans need. Whether it's J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, who ends up being the front runner, especially if it's J.D. Vance, with him being positioned as the fraud czar. But either way, it's a great position for Republicans to be in. But let's continue.
So the way I read your report, and it was great, it was really like a willful removal by California of all the kinds of checks and balances you'd want to have on this system to prevent fraud. It seemed like the idea was just, we want to get cash out to people as fast as possible. And if fraud happens, good for them, because they'll probably be glad for us and vote for us. Maybe I'm taking it too far, Chris, but it looked like a really systematic dismantling of all fraud protections there.
Absolutely. No, you're not taking it far enough. And in fact, this dates back more than 10 years, where Democrats have systematically dismantled all of the fraud protections that had been in place and then rejected any attempt to even do a basic audit of these programs. And so California Republicans, who are in a very small minority in the legislature, have been calling for audits, for legislative action, for further accountability. Democrats are going the other way, though. They're saying, actually, we want to reduce penalties for fraud. We talked to one legislator who says if Democrats get their way in this next session, they'll have essentially legalized welfare fraud in the state of California. Look, this puts money not only into fraudsters' pockets, it puts money into the union pockets, it puts money into all of these interest groups that California Democrats rely on. Fraud is perversely good for Democrats, even if it's bad for taxpayers.
And so basically, it's what Democrats are doing to gain and keep power. And it has to make you question a few things, because one thing Gavin Newsom will always hang his hat on is California, the size of its economy, the GDP, how it's the largest in the country. I believe the fourth or so largest globally. But you got to question, how much of that is fraud? How much of that is connected or a result of fraud? That Gavin Newsom allowed money to be stolen right in plain sight, so much so that when Nick Shirley comes around with his camera in hand, businesses just seem to run and get out of town, right? Leering Center, and then the place I just showed you guys a moment ago, but let's continue.
Yeah, that's right. The majority of this money is actually money that comes from Washington, comes from the federal government, and goes to California to pay for these programs. I'll give you one really good example. There's a program called IHSS, In-Home Supported Services, and California right now pays about 800,000 people to provide in-home care services, mostly to family members. They do laundry, they cook, they clean, they watch television, and some estimate that between 20 and 40% of this program, which costs more than $30 billion a year, mostly federal cash, is fraudulent because it operates on the honor system, in effect. Yeah. There's very little oversight, very little accountability, and it's now the #1 job in the state of California. This is, in other words, almost like a welfare program, paying people to take care of their own family members with little or no oversight. It's a disaster.
So the good news is, JD being the fraud czar and being able to show tangible results to the public is a good thing for him moving forward, right? Politically speaking. As the fraud czar cracking down on this and being able to play a lead role in it is going to bolster his credibility. Already with the bust, he's doing a better job as fraud czar than Kamala ever did as border czar as far as things go. We saw how things went with her in charge of that and how she was never really able to escape that during the election. And so this can be a great thing for JD and for Republicans. But that's the update and my thoughts. Now let me hear from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, you enjoy the content, smash the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more. And as always, until next time.